I came here for the march. The issue of school safety and gun violence is incredibly important to me. I teach high school English. I'm on the Janesville School Board, and I have been, sort of documenting the escalation of school violence and massacres in schools since, well, the first one that I became really affected by, and the one that of course caught all of our attention, was Columbine. And I'll never forget that day. And so this is incredibly important to me. I wanted to show support to these kids who are, helped organize this. I am so impressed and so inspired by them, and I wanted to be here to be supportive. This is historic, and it's not just the history, it's just how incredibly important this is, I have been through the active shooter training, where they select certain faculty members at my high school, give them an airsoft gun, and then we simulate, active shooter situations. And even though I know it's just a scenario, it is incredibly traumatizing. And I remember after Sandy Hook, our kids we were on lockdown. Actually, about 5 days later, we were on lockdown because there was sort of a copycat person that claimed that there was someone on our roof, and that if it was about time for the school to end. It was that last hour. And so our kids, we were on lockdown for well over an hour while they were figuring it out. And there were kids that were just really traumatized by this whole thing. It's wrong. Shouldn't happen. And I'm so thrilled with these kids, and keeping this in the spotlight and making it an issue. I hope this gun march, or this march, really for common sense gun solutions and school safety, will keep the conversation in the face of our lawmakers. Okay, there's been a profound lack of leadership on this issue, and it seems like every time something like this happens, they look to schools. Well, have you installed, better windows? What are your procedures? Do you have a liaison officer? Everybody looks to us to solve this problem, and it's so lopsided, so one-sided, and it makes me really angry. And so what I hope is that this march keeps this issue in their face, and so that we can finally change something. The suggestion that we arm teachers is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard in my life. First of all, kids and guns don't mix. And guns and schools don't mix. That's one thing. But also, I'm here to teach. I got into this job, to have a really incredible impact on young people. And I did not get into this job to potentially have to take somebody's life, even a bad person's, life. I didn't do that, and that's not. I just don't see that teachers are. That's not what we signed up for, and I also think that there's all sorts of other things that could happen. So there's an active shooter. Say you have teachers with guns. So all of a sudden SWAT comes in. How do you distinguish between who is the assailant and who is there trying to protect kids and fire back, right? So, I think that just it's so disrespectful, first of all, to law enforcement, and it just makes their job that much harder. The complications that would arise from this is just unbelievable. And let's not even talk about the fact that they don't even give us proper school supplies. Do you really, really honestly think that when push comes to shove, they're going to be able to fund or be willing to fund training for teachers in that capacity? That's right. They won't do it. So I think that there are all sorts of solutions that we could bring in and work on here in Washington. Number one, we could have universal background checks. Number two, we could ban military-style assault weapons. We could limit the size of the clips. and we can also reverse the Dickey Amendment, which doesn't even allow, for the CDC to research this as a public health crisis. So there's more. And by the way, none of the things I bring up here haven't already been discussed, and it's stuff that we've been talking about for such a long time. What has been lacking, of course, is the political will to do the right thing by kids, by schools, by our communities.